If you have people in your life who are occupying your time for their self-benefit, you should erase them from your life. Get away from people in your life that's hating. Get away from your family members that ain't ever opened a business. Get away from your family members that ain't ever followed their dream. Get away from your family members that ain't never been nowhere but to the family reunion. They ain't never been to a beach. Get away from them. Get away from them. I had to do it. Everybody has had a seasonal friend. My father had third grade education. You know what he used to tell me all the time? Everybody come with you, can't go with you. That's a cold lesson to learn in life, man. Everybody come with you, can't go with you. There's some people that can go with you just to a certain point. And the moment you try to elevate, you're gonna start losing some people. Everybody ain't happy for you opening your boutique. Oh, she thinks she is gonna open up a damn store. I ain't buying none of that. I ain't telling nobody about it. It's called jealousy. It's a more modern term. They're called haters. Yeah.
Don't be fooled by all that fake love. Don't be fooled by their phony smiles, their hugs, their I love yous. Snakes in the grass. Snakes in the grass slithering. And hear them coming a mile away. I can smell them, I can sniff them, I can see them, I can taste them. But some of you get blinded by them. Yeah. Your so-called friends, your so-called homies, your so-called partners, your so-called girls, they deserve an Academy Award for the best actors, the best actresses of the year, because they can put it all. They there for you when everything is great. They there for you when everything is wonderful. They're there for you when you balling. They there for you when you rolling. They there for you when you treating. They there for you when you got money. They're excited, girl, we gonna do this, man, bro, where we going tonight? Y'all out to eat. Oh, I forgot my wallet. Looking for you to pay. Say, no, you got it. The sad story is that when you up, they all riding with you. When you down, ain't nobody in the car but you. They act like they got love for you, but only because it benefits them. I don't know how many different ways I can say this. Just because they are in the car with you does not mean that they are riding for you. So many of us have to learn this the hard way. Situation where you've poured into this person. You have nothing but their best interest in your heart. And then when the shoe is on the other foot, they don't even want to talk to you. They act like they got love for you. Have your friends, have your family, have your relationships, but make sure you pay close attention to the circle, to your company that you keep. Because when you need them the most, I promise you, they will turn your back on you. You need to find you a group of friends, and y'all need to make a pact, and y'all need to keep that pact. And you need to know in your heart of hearts that if you down, they gonna pull you up. And if they down, you gonna pull them up. So have your friends, have your family, have your relationships, but make sure you stay woke. I call them halftime homies, because half the time they smiling in your face. Half the time they want to take your place. Remove and eliminate those halftime homies from your circle.
They are for what you are for. They are your constituents. And as long as you are for what they are for, they will walk with you and work with you and labor with you, but never think that they are for you. they are for what you are for. And you have to know that, because if they meet somebody else that will further their agenda, they will leave you and hook up with them, because they were never for you. They were just for what you were for. They are your constituents. And throughout your life, if you're not careful, particularly if you're broken, you will mistake your constituents for your confidants. And you will think that they are for you, when they are really not for you. They are just for what you are for. And by the time you get through falling in love with them, they will break your heart as they hook up with somebody else who is for what you are for, because it was never about you anyway. It was about the causes that you represent. They are for what you are for, but they are not for you.
Here's how you know someone's your friend. A, you can tell them bad news, and they'll listen. They won't tell you why, you're stupid and why that bad thing happened to you and how something worse happened to them once and, derail the whole conversation. You can actually tell them bad news and they'll listen. So that's a good thing. And then this is a weirder thing. You can tell them good news and they'll help you celebrate. And that's a really good way of deciding who you should have around you. Because if you have someone around you, something good happens to you, and you're kind of afraid to even admit it because, God, something good happened to you. It's like, you let that be known and it'll certainly be taken away. So, you come out and you sort of tell someone half-heartedly that something good happened to you, and they give you a whack and then talk about, the great thing that happened to them 3 years ago, or worse, the great thing that happened to someone that they knew 3 years ago. It's like, go away from that person. They're not helpful to you, and they're not helpful to themselves either. And so you want to surround yourself. You got to think about this. You got to surround yourself with people who want the best for the best part of you. You can hang around with weasels and losers that are trying to pull you down to justify the fact that they're spiraling downhill as well. And the upside of that is you don't have to have any responsibility, and you can all whine about how wretched life is, so that's pretty attractive. But I would say it's also a bad medium to long-term plan. And so it's acceptable and desirable to try to surround yourself with people who are facilitating your development. And you might say, well, I've got people around, I know them well, they're not doing that well, and they don't fit into that category. It's like, what's your point? What are you going to do with them exactly? If they'll listen and cooperate with you and move towards a better future, great. If they don't pay any attention and they keep doing the same damn things over and over and they're not going anywhere and it's painful, then maybe the proper thing to do is say, you just have your misery. I'll go off and have my life. And maybe you'll wake up at some point in the future and think that's a better way of being. Because just putting up with it is, well, they call that enabling, right? You put up with that sort of behavior, you're providing tacit consent for it and even tacit approval. It's like, it's a bad idea. You have, I would say, both the right and the responsibility to surround yourself with people who are good for the best part of you.
The third group are your comrades. These people are not for you, nor are they for what you are for. It is just that they are against what you are against. And the comrades will make strange bedfellows. This will cause people to come together who are not for you, and they are not for what you are for, but they are against what you are against. And they will team up with you to help fight a greater enemy. But don't be confused by their associations. They will only be with you until the victory is accomplished. These people are like scaffolding. They come into your life to fulfill a purpose, and when the purpose is complete, the scaffolding is removed. But don't be upset when they are removed, because the building always remains when the scaffolding is removed. What I'm saying to you, my brothers and sisters, expect the constituents and the comrades to leave you and desert you after a while. Don't be upset when they don't react to your dream the way you expected them to, because they were never really with you you in the first place. Be careful then who you tell your dream to, because if you tell your dream to your constituents, they will desert you and try to fulfill the dream without you. If you tell it to your comrades, they won't support it because they never were for what you were for anyway. If you find a few people in your entire life with whom you can share your dream with, you are a blessed somebody. I can tell you how to identify people who are really for you. If they are really for you, they will weep with you when you weep, and they will rejoice when you rejoice. When you walk in a room and you tell somebody good news, stop being happy for a minute and watch their reaction. If they're not happy for you, shut your mouth and walk back out of the door. Oh, y'all don't hear what I'm saying to you. Oh, yeah, because when they are really connected to you, they will be happy for you when you share your dream. Find somebody, look them in the eye and say, are you happy for me? If you don't get the right reaction, don't tell them anything else. You need somebody who's really going to be happy for you. I don't want just anybody praying for me. I don't want none of them haters praying for me, because you know you hate me and you don't want me to succeed. I want somebody praying for me who really wants me to be blessed, who wants me to be an overcomer, so you can put up your oil and stop speaking in tongues, because you know you never did speak to me anyway, and ain't no need in you coming up here in this hospital like you gonna pray some cancer up off of me. I'd rather have somebody who really loves me lay across the bed and rebuke the devil. And God is so faithful, he'll always give you somebody. Oh, if he ever sent anybody into your life to help you, you ought to just clap your hands and thank him for the people he sent. Don't worry about the people he took. You ought to praise him for the people he sent.
Are we so immature that we can't hear different opinions? Even those we don't like, sits back in amazement, horrified, call the police, and make our own judgments on what's being said and the validity of it. Do we not have the maturity to put forward another counter argument, which, if we are confident in what we're saying, will demolish that which we don't agree with? Anyone that wants to silence people rather than argue their case can't have much confidence in their own case, surely. And once you go down this road of giving authority the right to decide what can be said, what opinions can be had, you are in a tyranny, and that's where we're going now. But it's bigger than that, because it's not just political correctness. You can't say this, you can't say that, you must say that. It's also the fact that humanity has been hoaxed on a monumental scale in relation to freedom of expression and freedom of information. And it's been done out of an area that I call the devil's playground. It's better known as Silicon Valley. What's happened is, when you do the research, intelligence organizations like the CIA in the United States, the National Security Agency, and the Pentagon through an organization called DARPA, the Technological Development Arm of the Pentagon, they began seed funding technology and companies to develop what has become now known as the Internet, and an outgrowth of that, what became known as social media, and the search engine technology, which eventually became known as Google. All those were seed funded by this military intelligence network. And when they were selling it, because you can't show something's real face at the start, otherwise people will reject it and it won't get anywhere. You have to put another face to the world. So it was Google. Oh yeah, Google, yeah. And we just go to search engine, we can find what we like. That's great, hey. And social media. Oh, you post to your friends, you can say what you like. There's no censorship. Isn't it great? And then it builds, and then it builds, and then it builds. And now you've reached a point now with Facebook where it claims 2.2 billion active users in a global population of 7.5 billion. You have this 90% monopoly on search engines, searches of Google. You have YouTube, which has got basically a monopoly on the posting of internet videos, which is owned by Google. And once this monopolistic situation was reached, then they started saying, okay, now we've got this much control, we're going to start deciding what you see and what you don't see.
And when you make up your mind to be defined by a vision of the future, instead of the memories of the past, all you have to do is make a decision just with a level of intensity that has such a strong amplitude of energy that in that moment your body begins to respond to your mind. In other words, the choice that you make becomes a decision that you never forget. It becomes an experience. And the stronger you have that emotion, the more you are going to pay attention to what you're focusing on in your mind. And now you're beginning to remember your future. Long-term memories are created by strong, highly charged emotional events. The stronger the emotional charge you feel from some event, the more you pay attention to the cause, and the brain takes a snapshot, and that's called a memory. So then, how do you change the memory of the past? You got to start remembering your future, and you got to come out of your resting state. And that moment has to define you. So everybody's done this. And you just got to have a clear intent on what you want. And so learn, study, get something in your brain that's going to stimulate you about what's possible. And then begin to dream or begin to build a model of what it could look like, and don't let go of it. And begin to experience the emotions of how you feel when it happens. And teach your body emotionally what that future is going to feel like. So it only requires two things: a clear intention, that's a function of a coherent, organized brain, and an elevated emotion, which is a function of your heart and your body. And when you combine those two, you're going to change your energy. And when you change your energy, you're going to change your life. But that's the start. Because it's so easy to forget your vision. It's easier to forget it than remember it, right? It's easier to believe in your past than to believe in your future. It's easier to romance your past than to romance your future, or fall in love with your past than it is your future. But people who start falling in love with their future more than their past falls away. So then, you got to write down the thoughts in that day that are not going to sneak by your awareness unchecked. Like, I can't, it's too hard, I'll never change, what's wrong with me, it's my mother's fault, my father was an alcoholic, my ex was a whatever. You gotta be so conscious of those thoughts that you're not going to let them slip by and go unconscious to them. You got to decide what choices you got to stop making. You got to stop behaving a certain way. You got to stop having the same experiences and staying away from those people that create those same experiences. And you got to watch those emotions that are going to bring you to a lower denominator, because the moment you start feeling suffering or pain or frustration, you just disconnected from the energy of your future, and now you're back to the energy of your past.
And that is to fully realize that there are two dimensions, so to speak, to who you are. The one that is defined in form, which includes the physical form and the psychological form and the thinking entity. So your consciousness has the two dimensions. There's an intermediate area, but we don't need to go there. There's the conscious dimension of thinking, and that creates your conventional sense of identity. And there is the deeper space where there is a vast consciousness that is not defined in form. So there's the two of you, the known, the person, and the unknown, the undefined, or as the Buddha called it, the unmanifested, the unborn, the uncreated. And the Buddha added, this is one of the sutras in my free translation, so he said, there is the unborn, the unmanifested, the uncreated. If there were not, sorry, the sutras are a little bit repetitive, if there were not the unborn, the unmanifested, the uncreated, there would be no escape from the born, the manifested, and the created. And I'm adding in my free translation, and you would be completely stuck in it and with it. So there is a dimension in every human that is far deeper than what you conventionally consider is the I. So you can say there is the I that is defined through thought, and there is a deeper I that is not defined. And the purpose of your existence really is, in evolutionary terms, is to find that deeper being, the undefined, the unknown, and bring that into this dimension and into your life. And you all have made the discovery already that you don't need to think continuously, and that your deeper sense of who you are does not depend on what your mind is saying about who you are. There is a more immediate, much more real sense of I than you could ever find through thinking about who you are.
Just check the circle of your friends. The people around you, the more time you spend with them, I don't care who you are, you're going to become like them. We're not talking about acquaintances. We're not talking about friends at work. We're talking about our circle of friends. The friends in your life are shaping the future of your life.
Do you have those people in life that appeal to the worst in you and not the best in you? And whenever they connect with you, they bring you down to where you were before?
Who do you allow to be in your ear? What kind of relationships are you developing? Are they an asset to you, or they are a liability? Do they elevate your spirits, or do they tear you down? We get two types of people: nourishing people and toxic people. Nourishing people, they bring the best out of you. They encourage you, they inspire you, they hold you accountable. Toxic people, they are critical people, always telling you what you can't do. They're always measuring your possibilities based upon their failures. They don't know what's possible for you. My mother said, never let anybody tell you what you can't do, son, especially if they haven't done it. So as you begin to look at yourself, begin to identify the relationships that you communicate with most and say, hey, is this relationship helpful to me?
Loyalty has an expiration date. The problem is when you're the nice person, your loyalty lasts far longer to certain people than it should, because their loyalty to you has been expired. But you being the good person, You hang on to friendships and become forgiving far longer than you really should be. Loyalty has an expiration date.
Something in front of you, strong enough to give you the courage to let go of the system behind you. I know you're gonna get scared and run back every now and then. We already admitted that, but I want you to understand that what God thought about you is truer than what you thought about you.
Everything you're going through is preparing you for what you asked God for. You just gotta quit tripping while you're in the process, because the process is necessary. You may not see it now, but when he gets you on the other side of it, you're gonna see exactly why it went that way, and you're gonna be okay with it.
I must be inclined that it's somebody who's holding back on a decision, holding back on moving forward, and you're holding back because of fear. Fear of being rejected, being replaced, fear of people that you want to accept you won't accept you. When fear controls you, your decisions become illogical. And it's a problem because God is not the author or the generator of fear.
You need to learn to think, because thinking makes you act effectively in the world. Thinking makes you win the battles you undertake, and those could be battles for good things. If you can think and speak and write, you are absolutely deadly. Nothing can get in your way.
Trying to handle heartbreak, it's so important that we understand there has to be output to our life. Listen to me, if you're broken, don't take a break. Don't let the person who didn't love you stop you from meeting the person who will love you. See, what the enemy wants to do is the enemy wants to isolate you. And the enemy wants you to find some valley, and he wants you to camp out in that valley and say, nobody understands me, and nobody knows how bad my heart is broken, and nobody gets me, and because nobody gets me, I'm gonna go and do this thing all on my own. But I have come to remind you that that is a lie from the pit of hell. That is simply a reaction. And if you're ever gonna rebuild, it's gonna require to share with one another and walk through it together.
I'm going to make it. It's possible. Your dream is possible. Say that to yourself every day. Feed your mind with words that you write and words that you speak to yourself. Feed your faith, and your doubts will starve to death. It's possible. It's possible. Even when you have no evidence to point to, say to yourself, it's possible. There's nothing as powerful as a made-up mind. It's a struggle sometimes to do that, especially when you have people around you telling you that it's not possible. And they're constantly pointing out your failures of the past, constantly reminding you of all of the things that you don't have going for you.
Trust is reliance, or to rely on God's integrity, to lean and to rely on God's ability. It is a confident expectation of something. Who or what are you leaning on in the midst of hard times, in the midst of lack, in the midst of hurt? Who do you lean on the most?
I cannot tell you to let go of a system and not have something to hold on to. After all, this is all you ever had. This is what I'm familiar with. Even if I'm familiar with something that's killing me and hindering me and dwarfing me and retarding my growth, it's my normal. Even though it's not normal, it's my normal. It's my normal.
There's a battle of two systems here. It's the system of God and it's the system of this world. And you're going to have to choose. And I have chosen the system of God over the system of the world. Anything that's working in the world, it came from God.
I got my new system on Monday and Tuesday. And Tuesday night, I relapsed and I got my old system. And Wednesday morning, I said, no, we're not going together no more. And I put it down and I go back and I get my new system. And then some scholar scares me and I go back and I get my old system until finally I develop the ability to trust my new...
Life seemingly does not wish to waste success on the unprepared. Life says, why waste a fortune on this person? They're not prepared to do the right things with it. They're not prepared to use it wisely. So not only look for fortune, not only look for the promise, but prepare yourself and ask of yourself, what can I do to make myself ready?
Trying to handle heartbreak, it's so important that we understand there has to be output to our life. Don't let the person who didn't love you stop you from meeting the person who will love you. See, what the enemy wants to do is the enemy wants to isolate you. And the enemy wants you to find some valley, and he wants you to camp out in that valley and say, nobody understands me and nobody gets me, and because nobody gets me, I'm gonna go and do this thing all on my own. But I have come to remind you that that is a lie from the pit of hell. That is simply a reaction. And if you're ever gonna rebuild, it's gonna require to share with one another and walk through it together.
Life was designed not to give us what we want, not to give us what we need, but life was designed to give us what we deserve. It says those that give, receive. Someone says, I wish to receive, I wish to receive. You don't have to concentrate on receive. Just become a good giver. It says those that search will find. Someone says, well, I need to find some good ideas to help change my life for the future. Then to find good ideas, that doesn't come because you need them, it comes because you search for it.
How many marriages have ended because of social media? Your grandparents that's been married for 30, 40, 50 years did not have social media to contribute to the dysfunction of their marriage. We are growing up in a technology age where communicating and social networking has went to a whole nother stratosphere. So technically it's became even more challenging to be in a functioning, healthy marriage or relationship.
And I want to walk you down the road until what he thinks about you begins to hit the ground and you become seed to the sower. And people are glad to see you coming because God is going to make bread out of your life. You've been crushed, you've been pressed, you've been pulverized, but God said, I'm going to make you nourishment. I'm going to make you strength to somebody.
If he was through with you, you would not wake up in the morning. He gonna fix it. But now, God can't give you what you want because you want to hold on to what you got. You all in the way. It's a simple process. The only reason I'm telling you this, because this is how I made it. I just do me. I stay uniquely who I am. Because God made you uniquely who you are. He wanted you to be just like you are.
How easy is it to get up in the morning when you know you're not doing all that it takes? It's not very easy at all. You can just lay there awake thinking, oh, what's a few more minutes in bed? It won't matter much anyway. Wrong. It does matter. It will matter. Now, how easy is it to get up in the morning when you're pouring it on, doing the best you can, anxious to get going, make progress toward your dreams? It's a whole different story. When you're resting to renew your reserves, it's much different than resting to avoid your day. When you're psyched up and excited for your life, when you're excited for what you've planned to accomplish for the day, it's amazing. You'll wake up before the alarm clock even tries to startle you awake. Your successes fuel your ambition. Your successes give you extra energy. Your successes pave the way for more successes. It's the snowball effect. With one success, you're excited to meet another, and another, and another. And pretty soon, the disciplines that were so difficult in the beginning, the disciplines that got you going, are now part of your philosophy. How do you know when you're successful? Do you have to be a millionaire? No. All we ask of you is that you earn all you possibly can. If you earn $10,000 a year and that's the best you can do, that's enough. God and everything else will see to it that you're okay. The key is to just do the best you can. If it's 10,000 a year, wonderful. If it's 100,000 a year, wonderful. If it's 1 million a year, wonderful. It doesn't matter 10,000 a year or 1 million a year. It doesn't matter as long as you've done the best you possibly can. Earn the most you possibly can. Be the most you possibly can. And here's why. The essence of life is growth. The essence of life is growth, to do the best you can. And here's what's interesting. Humans are the only life form that will do less than they possibly can. Humans are the only life form that will settle for less. Every other life form except human beings strive to its maximum capacity. How tall will a tree grow? Approximately. As tall as it possibly can. You never heard of a tree growing half as high as it could. No, trees don't grow half. Trees send their roots down as deep as possible, stretch their limbs up as high as possible, produce every leaf possible and every fruit possible. As a matter of fact, you never heard of a human physically growing half. We keep growing until we're done. Now that's a part of life we can't control.
Find out who you're associating with. If those people add something to you, if they give you something in return, or is it all just a give and take, meaning like they just take and then you give? That's a bad relationship, man. Get the negative energy out of life. These people that you're around, they're always complaining and everything else. They're taking part of your soul. You only have so much to give every single day. Why waste it on that, guys? You gotta love yourself in order to love somebody else, guys. You gotta be whole and happy with who you are if you never help somebody else out. People say, oh, it's selfish to just care about yourself. Well, if you need some fixing and reworking, it's not selfish, because you can get yourself better and then be able to really lend a hand in an honest way to somebody to really help them out.
I want you to ask yourself, do I love myself enough to give myself permission to go after what I want? Like, do I love myself enough to exercise this weekend? Do I love myself enough to study that extra hour? Because when you can start saying yes to loving yourself, you start to realize just how far you're able to go. And I wish people knew that the ability to succeed, it's all inside of you. It's never been hidden. It's just, do you love yourself enough to let it out? The best version of yourself is so beautiful and so amazing. And yes, people may not accept you all the time and they may hurt you, but I don't want you to keep that in, because you were meant to be a certain type of person, and there's somebody out there in this world who needs to see you for who you are.
The growing of our minds, the expansion of our minds, that we can control. And that's what tends to get away from us. All life forms inherently strive to their max except human beings. Now, why wouldn't human beings strive to their maximum possibility? Here's why. Because we've been given the dignity of choice. It makes us different than alligators and trees and birds. The dignity of choice makes us different than all other life forms. And here's the choice: to become part of what we could be, enough to get by, or to become all that we can be. My best advice for you is to choose the all. Earn all you can, make all the friends you can, read as many books as you can, develop as many skills as you can, see as much as possible, do as much as possible, make as much fortune as possible. Give as much of it away as possible. The max. There's no life like it. I'm telling you, once I got on track, I've never looked back. Pick up the challenge. Go for it. Take the best of the two easies. Take the route of it's easy to get ahead. It's easy to do all you can. It's easy to succeed. It's easy to have financial freedom. The more you do, the more you get. So the two primary benefits of positive reinforcement are, number one, to build good habits, and number two, to create more energy, to fuel your ambitions, your desires, your achievements. How can you isolate what's working for you and what isn't? How can you make sure that you are reinforcing your positive disciplines? Well, if it isn't apparent, easy to see right away, if what you're doing is happening in such small increments that you're not sure if you're on track, then you need to be writing it down. You need to keep a journal anyway. But if you really aren't sure that what you're doing is making measurable progress, you need to keep a written record. You need to write down everything that may be relevant in your day. What you did, who you saw, what you felt, how it may or may not affect you now and in the future. The best way to track your activities of the day is to write them down. The best way to track your activities of the week is to write them down. The best way to analyze your progress through the year is to have written it down. Why? So you can look back on it. Because by keeping a written record of your life, you will be more accountable. By putting into writing the action steps that you have planned, you will easily see what works and what doesn't. Most people just try to get through the day, never writing anything down, never keeping track of their progress along the way, never really knowing if they are doing all they can to reach their goals, to drive their ambition. But gifted people learn to get from the day. They don't let a day end without picking up some valuable experience, some emotional content, some idea that may positively affect their future. To get the most from a day, to learn the most from a day, you need to be able to reflect on the day. And how can you reflect on a day unless you record it in history?
When a caterpillar transforms into a butterfly, gets its wings, it doesn't just have the ability to crawl faster. It comes into a whole new dimension, from crawling to flying. When you get your wings, you're not going to just be better at what you can do right now. God is going to catapult you into a new dimension. Things are going to happen sooner than you thought. You're going to discover gifts, talents, creativity that you didn't know you had. Where you think, where did this come from? You got your wings. That's God taking you places that you could never go on your own. There's going to be a preparation period between the time God puts the dream in your heart and the time that it comes to pass. It's up to us to pass these tests, to be willing to go through the pregnancy, the uncomfortable season when we don't understand it. We're doing the right thing, but we're not making progress. This is when many people give up on their dreams. They were anointed, but because they wouldn't go through the preparation process, they never gave birth. They never saw the appointing come.
To every person in this room who's had a struggle, who's had some tests, who's got some creative ideas, but you've gone through some really tough stuff. The stuff you've been through, don't pay it any attention. It is just a sign that the baby is coming. You're on the verge of birthing. You're about to give birth. The baby is coming. The baby is coming. The baby is coming. You don't want to leave me now. The baby is coming.
When you're pregnant, the baby is developing on the inside where nobody can see. In those tough times where you're uncomfortable, you're doing the right thing, but the wrong thing is happening, something is developing in you that you can't see. It's getting you prepared. And this is the reason many people never give birth to what's in them. They don't understand the process. God will put a dream in your heart. He'll give you the anointing, then he'll send you back to the shepherd's fields. The appointing will come later.
Anybody who left you is going to miss it. They're going to miss the greatest part of you, the greatest part of your destiny, the greatest part of your creativity. It took everything you went through yesterday to get you ready for what you are about to do today. You are standing on the verge of a great awakening, or you wouldn't be here. If I'm talking to you, make some noise in this place.
You have to think. You can't just feel. You have to think.
you know, even when you're taking care of kids, part of what you're doing is being compassionate. But if you're too compassionate towards your kids, then you do everything for them. And if you do everything for them, then they grow up useless and they never leave and they hate you and they hate everything else too. It's a bad idea. Treating your children like they're endless permanent victims is a very bad idea.